Good morning. It's so nice to see so many faces this morning. This is our third annual breakfast that CRVA supports with RVWA. We're absolutely thrilled that Shane and Shannon are able to do that with us. This is my fourth year coming into being on the board of directors with the RVWA, and I just want to talk about that for a little bit. Canada has really started to grow our network with RVWA, and that's a really great thing. RVWA's mission is to elevate, educate, and support. And while it is a women's alliance, men are most welcome. So if you haven't become a member, please consider doing it. It's free. There's lots of different education and networking opportunities, including Symposium, which takes place every year in Chicago. Last year we gave away 2 tickets, and that's a $600 value. You do have ballots on the tables. Please fill them out. We will do a draw today for 2 free tickets. Symposium's a really great opportunity. We have people from all ends of the RV network. I think we had over 400 people attend last year. So Al's got the bin for the ballots. Once you fill it out, please put it in. We'll do a draw. The QR code on the ballot is a link for you to join. If you aren't already a member, everyone is welcome. It's my pleasure to introduce Shane Devenish, who's going to talk to you and introduce our speaker this morning, which we're very excited about.
Listen, first, thank you very much for coming and waking up early this morning. I know it's going to be a long day. So it's our 50th anniversary this year. And we had that board meeting and we got together. We wanted to do something special at this breakfast. And I don't think we could have got anybody more special to us. Toby has been a tremendous friend of the CRVA and our Campground Association for many years. She's helped us with some seminars and online presentations. So we reached for the stars and we sent her an invite and she accepted. So Toby is the president and CEO of KOA, who were just nominated, or named, I should say, the top franchise by Franchise Business Review, and named the best in category in the recreational sector by the FBR, and also recognized as whole outdoor hospitality franchise on both most innovative franchise and top franchise culture. So she knows what she's doing. I have listened to her and been fortunate to hear some presentations, and we really thought that it's good to listen for everybody to hear her thoughts on the industry. And KOA does a tremendous job getting data on trends and everything. And I think you all are going to find this very interesting this morning. So with that, Toby, thank you.
That works. Thank you, Shane. Appreciate the warm welcome. An American coming to Canada, I thought we should maybe break the ice on all the elephants in the room, and congratulations on the 4 Nations win. Yeah, just thought I'd get that out of the way. I'm a hockey mom myself, so we'll see you in the Olympics next year. But it's really nice to be here at the 50th anniversary, I understand, of the Toronto Spring Camping and RV Show, or the big one, right? That's what we call it. So thinking of, you also could call it the Great Outdoors Show, right? We're here selling, not just product, but we're selling that sense of adventure, that freedom on the road, that Let's Go show. It could also be called, because there's so much excitement, as people build up. Especially right now, this could also be called the Spring Fever Show. The really bad winter across the board. I know we had a bad winter in Montana, and I'm hearing you did here as well. Also worth being the Affordable Vacation Show, which might resonate right now. Stress Reduction Show. But I think, those ways we think about what we sell really illustrates what a great business that we're in. And I know I'm really proud proud to be a part of an industry that delivers so much to so many people in those ways. And I think it's really healthy. I heard you had good numbers yesterday and expecting good numbers today, that people are out looking at RVs. And I think that again is illustrating what this is bringing to people. And really, it's not just how people camp, right? And you know that as RV people, it's how people stay. And that's really changed over these past couple of years, that there's been this reframe. Let me advance some slides here, sorry. There's been a reframe in leisure travel. So camping is now really considered as a place to stay in any given market. You go to a given market, you're talking about where you're going to stay, and now in your RV or at a campground as part of that conversation. And as you can see here, 1 in 4 leisure trips in 2024 involved camping, which I think is just really amazing. And among people who camp, 55% of their leisure travel is spent camping. And these are really solid numbers that we really started to see go in this direction during the pandemic, and they've held on. Also, I'm really proud to be part of this industry, as you are, because there is such high economic impact that our campers bring to local communities. So a Canadian camper, last year spent almost $200 a day in their local community when they were camping, and all in, $61 billion spent by campers across North America last year. So I think we're a significant economic driver. It ladders up into the broader outdoor recreation sector, and I think we make sizable impact on our respective countries, which I think is something to be very proud of. So speaking on behalf of the private campground industry, and I have a lot of my fellow campground owners at KOA here. Lost me, there you go. In yellow, you can't miss us. I wore red today for Canada, and when I walked up, Shane said, "You're not in yellow." So what are you? And I was like, "Well, it's for Canada." So, yellow's here, but we represent the campground sector, and we have 500 and some campgrounds across the U.S. and Canada with KOA. We have 30 here in Canada, which we're very proud of. And I've been at KOA now for 15 years. It's hard to believe. And there's, always aware of this inextricable link between campgrounds and the RV industry. 85% of our business is in RV, actually. So it's very important to us. But in the past couple of years, I've been putting more thought into what I'm calling this ecosystem. So ecosystem brings together everybody that touches that RV customer. That includes OEMs and dealers and suppliers. It includes storage. It includes all the different ways you can book camping online. That includes campgrounds. And the reality is that as the customer interacts with this activity of RVing, they're touching all of us. And so we share this customer. And we'll talk a little bit about it later, but we have to really think about their journey through the ecosystem, because that's what helps us grow overall the activity. It doesn't just live in one piece of the puzzle. It all comes together as we think about our customer. So talking about business cycles, right? We've had quite a business cycle, and as we think about this ecosystem, we've all been through this roller coaster, if you will, together. And taking a look at just your RV retail sales, you can see the roller coaster squarely on display there, right? I thought it was great to see you're stabilizing in the RV sales over the past year. We haven't seen that on the campground side yet, and I'll share a snapshot of what I'm talking about. So here's your RV Canadian retail. This is total system. This is not just Canadian campgrounds. But this is pretty representative of campgrounds as a whole. So this is across our whole system. But as you can see, that large peak of camping activity in 2021 matches your sales. And we've seen declining reservations and occupancy since then, and declined again last year. So I think we're all sharing again in this ecosystem, looking how we're going to turn RV sales back up and turn occupancy back up. So our Canadian campgrounds were down about 7.5% in nights last year in Western Canada. Eastern Canada was actually flat to the year before, which is really healthy. There was a lot of anomalies in that data, some stuff impacted by fires and some various factors, but in general, there is occupancy to gain. And there's been a narrative, I think, in the media, national media, about occupancy at campgrounds, and campgrounds are full. If you didn't make your reservation 6 months ago, you're not going to get in. And that's not the case. That might have been the case in 21, but there is a lot of occupancy to gain as we drive our business back up. If we look at camping households in Canada, 5.3 million households camp. This wouldn't just be RV, right? This would be all campers last year. But it's really concerning to me that that was a 20% decline from 23. Now that's ahead of 2019, which is great. You know, everything these days gets benchmarked pre-pandemic, post-pandemic. So there's been a gain there, but a steep decline year over year. And we're in a tough climate right now, so that decline may very well continue. We want to talk about how we curb that. So what happened last year? Several things, which you're definitely well aware of. But we'll spend a few minutes talking about just what other people might be out doing. So there's this return to other forms of travel we definitely saw. So cruising is having a moment. Who took a cruise last year? Yeah, Matt, it's your fault. Cruising itself is up 6% ahead of where it was ahead of the pandemic. Everybody's cruising right now. So the average age of a cruiser has shifted down to 46 years old. You know, this used to be thought of as an older activity. They said they'd gained 10 million new cruisers over the past couple of years. So it's definitely having a moment and everybody's taking cruises. I do think that had an impact on business. I think, people don't have a lot of vacation time, and when they do, or money to spend, and when they make those decisions, maybe they took a cruise last year as an example. We also saw that outbound international travel is increasing, both in the US and Canada. In Canada, outbound travel, other than going to the States, so elsewhere in the world, increased by 21% last year. There was a lot of stuff going on in Europe, right? There was the Olympics, Taylor Swift Eras Tour. Did anybody go to that? Yeah, so did I. But that, it drew a lot of people out of the country. Also, a lot of people, they said, going to the Caribbean and Mexico. There's big increases there. I think that also had an impact on business. But beyond returning to other forms of travel, economic pressure, right, is probably the biggest factor, the biggest reality. So 42% of campers, Canadian campers, feel their financial situation worsened last year. And they said that has an impact on how they travel. They spent less on travel because of it. Or maybe they didn't book as many trips as they used to have. And we know that this is still economic anxiety is happening, is very real right now, and that will continue. But also, in all these things that we're talking about here, lost business, lost campers, I wanted to squarely look at the RVer. So as you recall, a few slides ago, I said camping was down 20%, but what's super concerning to me is that RVs were the bulk of that. And to put that in perspective, about 390,000 less people camped in an RV last year than they did the year before. So business is down, but it's largely coming out of the RV segment, and that's the problem we're here to tackle together. So as we think about these factors in 24 that led to the numbers we saw in the results, well, we're really here to talk about, okay, what's going to happen this year, right? How are we going to move forward, change these trajectories, move them up, but taking into account what's happening in the country right now. So I've been thinking about this model I'm calling tend the fire. Right? How do we tend a fire, right? We spark a fire, we strengthen that fire, we stoke the fire. And I think we can apply that simple analogy to a very complex problem in how we manage our camper business as we navigate through these different challenges. So first of all, we'll talk about spark. Sparking business, this is new campers. This is attracting new people to RVing, attracting new people to camping, sparking that interest. Now, what I was really excited to see when I looked at the data on Canada is that despite the decline in campers last year, there was a sizable percentage of people that were doing it for the first time. And that's super healthy. 7% of all the people that camped last year were new. It's great, camping for the first time. That's really healthy. 18% of those were in RVs, which is also great. Who were these people? Largely younger demographics. As you can see there, almost 30% were Gen Z. That's a sizable number. All in, what is that, 61% are under the age of 44. So this big shift to younger demographics trying camping for the first time. And just, no real commentary on it, but a very interesting point of interest that there was a huge increase in Caucasian campers. I thought that was interesting, and I'd have to dig into that a little bit more from what we saw the previous year. That's a little snapshot of the new Canadian camper last year. So obviously a strategy as we grow business and grow RV sales is going after new campers, people who have never camped before. But I think that's really difficult right now. I think it'll be difficult. It's always difficult to drive new business. Cost of acquisition is high. It's commonly said that acquiring a new customer is 5 to 7 times more expensive than retaining an existing customer. And that you sell product, you understand that, and that makes sense. But I think it's going to be even more difficult right now to really attract new people. So what I'm proposing is that we focus on people who already have an inclination to the outdoors. There's a really great base of people who camped but didn't RV that have high interest in RVing. So all the time when I do interviews with the RV industry, there's a lot of questions about glampers or tenters and almost being dismissive of that or viewing that as competition to business and the rental market. But here I think that we could look at this as a gateway and a pipeline. So tenters, glampers, car campers. Interestingly, we've seen a big increase in car campers these past few years. I think it's very much driven by the economy. More and more people sleeping in their cars. The red indicates interest to rent an RV in 2025. And this data is fresh. We did this in January. And the yellow is interest in purchasing RVs in 2025. So there's interest out there. There's a captive audience and people we can go after, very targeted when we're looking at sparking interest in RVing and camping. Instead of just trying to hit everybody with the message, we can be very targeted and talk to the reasons it would appeal to these people based off their current camping experiences. Okay, so we have a fire. We've sparked interest. Everybody's had their interest sparked at one time or another. Once they come in and once we have our fire, we need to tend to it, right? We need to strengthen it. We add fire or add wood to that fire. We have to let that fire grow and allow it to burn longer. And that's what strengthen's all about in this analogy. Because really the best way to grow our business and take care of these trends we're seeing is to nurture our base. Our business is really going to be driven from the base of customers. Gartner says 80% of a company's future revenue comes from 20% of its existing customers. We just talked about it's expensive to acquire new customers. You can really grow your business by focusing on our existing base. Makes sense intuitively, and you know that. I introduced this concept at the RV Power Breakfast in Elkhart a couple years ago, and you may have seen it if you were there, and so I apologize for repeating it, but I think it's really important as we think about the ecosystem and the shared customer we all have and how it impacts all of us, and thinking about the customer journey, particularly as we're talking about strengthening our base of business. So this is a customer journey map. Someone made that decision to camp. It might be the first time they made that decision or the 10th time they made that decision. There's lots of ways that they could camp, as we've just discussed. There's lots of different ways to camp. But regardless, they've made that decision. They're going to choose the way they're going to do that. And they're going to move into a discovery phase of where to go. They're going to book their adventure. They're going to camp somewhere. They're going to make that decision to do it again. They might have to service their RV. They might have to store it. but then they're coming back into that cycle, right? Our idea about strengthening the base is getting people to continue on the cycle and keep making those decisions. The reality is, there's lots of places at each of these stops that it can be difficult for somebody, or they have a bad experience. We spend a lot of time also looking at improving accessibility on our campgrounds. And that's also because as campers naturally age, their needs are going to be different from even a mobility perspective. And how do we make our campgrounds more accessible? How do we make our RV product more accessible so we don't lose those longtime campers out of the activity, taking the exit ramp? That's an example. You can do a lot of work here, and I think you can put a different lens to it. Let me go through the journey as a family, like who that family target. Let me go through the journey as, brand new camper. Let me go through the journey as a neurodivergent camper, and all the different things we would take into account about how we find and fix the points of friction for that target audience. Positively, there's been really good improvements in feedback on their first RV experience. We asked this question, we ask it pretty much every year, but I remember going back to like 21, 22, asking people to rate their first RV experience. Only like 18% said great. These are people that probably dropped off, took those exit ramps. Now, I think we do have a more engaged base of campers. 54% of RVers last year said they had a great first experience. That's really, really good. I think we're getting people who know what they're doing, they're understanding, we're finding and fixing those points of friction. If we continue to work on that, the more people have a great or a good first experience, they're going to keep making that decision to camp. One tool we use at KOA, and you may also use in your companies, is the Net Promoter Score. So what this does is when someone checks out, we ask them, would you recommend this KOA to others on a scale of 1 to 10? And then your Net Promoter Score is calculated by taking your promoters that gave you a 9 or a 10 and subtracting the detractors to get a score. And we didn't make this up. This is a nationwide thing or a worldwide thing implemented by Bain Consulting across all industries. And the scale goes, if you're below 30, you need improvement. You can go to 0, negative 100 and positive 100. Great is 31 to 69. World-class levels are 70 and above. We're really proud that KOA crossed into this world-class level 2 years ago. We had a 70, and this year we achieved a 71. We have some campgrounds that have, probably some here in this room, yes, they're in the 90s, right, or very close to that 100 mark. So at an individual dealer, an individual campground level, measuring that NPS, it gives us something to work at. We didn't just get to where we're at, and I know these campground owners didn't just magically get a 98 NPS score. We started measuring this, I think 15, 18 years ago, and we started at more like a 50-something. And we've increased that NPS year over year with a lot of focused attention on service to where we're in the 70 level. So it's just a tool that you can use to measure guest experience and hold your staff accountable to increasing it. But as we apply something like this across our ecosystem, I think it can help us find those points of friction and strengthen again. We're about strengthening our base. So moving on to stoke. Everybody has fire. You let that fire die down. You still have, it's there. You can see it. It's red maybe. You can feel the heat. But it's not an active fire per se, so you stoke it, right? We all understand that. And the idea there, in our camper analogy here, is those people who have lapsed. How do we re-engage them and bring them back to camping? How do we find those people? And as you remember, I said there was almost 400,000 RVers didn't RV last year. Some of those we would consider probably lapsed. How do we get them back, take on an entryway back onto the highway after they've gone on that exit ramp? So I think there's lots of ways we can appeal to people, right? You can mine your databases. You know who's bought from you before. You can go back out there and asking if they're going to buy again. We can appeal to them also through just things that might really move the needle right now. And one is talking about camping and RVing as an affordable travel option. So this is non-campers and campers asked to rate on a 1 to 5 scale affordable places to stay. And as you can see, campers rate campgrounds the highest compared to short-term vacation rentals, hotels, motels. Momentum around telling people to use an RV, camp close to home, and think about their vacation differently. So we can really sell on that. But we can also, I think right now, tap into where we started this morning, talking about that emotional ROI, the E-ROI of the purchase. So tapping into, connecting with nature, sense of adventure. You're not tied to airline schedules. You have everything you need together. You have more flexibility. You're spending time with family and friends. Rekindling those relationships. We live in this introvert economy right now, and connection is increasingly important with people. Camping provides that. We know that intuitively. We can obviously, sell. They knew all this in the pandemic. They went outside for a reason, and we're just here to remind them of the reasons they did that and the fun, and now we can appeal to them again for those same reasons. Consistently these past few years, when we ask people why they camp, they say stress relief. They want to get away from the stress. They want to get away from political drama. They want to get away from economic stress, and camping is providing that. It always ranks as number 1 or 2. If it's connection with family and stress relief are the reasons people are camping. And we can continue to tap into that right now because that's really key selling points right now. So this tending the fire strategy, I think, can help us just, again, visualize how we nurture this base, allows us to be more proactive in taking care of our camper base. There's a lot of things that are outside of our control, but if we're properly strengthening our base or sparking interest, and then stoking some of those who have left us and bringing them back, we can continue to be proactive and in front of it so we can weather the next pandemic more easily, or we can get through these times of economic volatility. And looking ahead, as I wrap up here, there is good outlook from what we're seeing in our data for 2025. Over 2/3 of Canadian campers say they're planning to camp again, which is really great. But also, there's high interest in buying RVs. 22% of existing Canadian RVers say they want to upgrade, or maybe even 8% saying they would downgrade, but they want a new purchase. That's 30% of the existing RV base is interested in RV purchases. And I think that's something that is positive. Again, this was new data, just taken last month, so I think that there's something to build on here. With that, I'll wrap up. Oh, I should say also positive outlook, and I was sharing with some of my partners at KOA this morning, is when we keep cutting out, there we go. When we look ahead to June and July, for example, our Canadian campgrounds are up over last year. And that's really great because as you saw that occupancy dip across the board at KOA, but our Canadian grounds are actually on track to have a really strong summer. They're tracking ahead of last year. So that's also good indications, indicative. And another thing I was asked earlier is, are people coming across the border to camp? Last year, I looked in our camper base, 15% of the Canadian camper nights were from U.S. campers. And I think that number is really good because in 2019, ahead of the pandemic, that number was 13%. So we're actually tracking ahead of where we were pre-pandemic in terms of cross-border, and I think that will continue as well. If you snap this QR code, you can get my contact information. I'll give you to my email, phone number, and also I'm more than happy. Do you want me to take questions, Shane? Yeah, if there are any questions. I cannot answer on behalf of the president. I don't have it. I do not know. But I'm more than happy to answer any questions about how we navigate any political situations. I'm not on the inner circle, but I'm more than happy to talk about how we might be navigating things at KOA. Yes, yeah, go ahead.
I stayed at KOA in the past month and a half, 5 times, and I never got that survey, so I wonder how they...
Do you want to stay survey?
No,
Or would you recommend?
Yeah.
You've never got that. Did you give an email address when you booked?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't have to look into that. Okay, great. Maybe afterwards, if you wouldn't mind giving me your email address, I'm going to look and find out. Maybe you've been blocked. Are you a bad camper? Maybe someone blocked you. They're like, don't let him give a review. I'll find out.
No.
Typically, we send it to anyone who we have the email for. They get that automatically. So I don't know what's going on. I want to find out. Hopefully, it didn't get spam folder. Okay, let me find out. Yeah, maybe we blocked all the Canadian emails. No, I don't know. I'll look into that. Yes.
I'm Melina. I'm from the RV Connects podcast, but this might be a nerdy question because I'm a chief customer experience officer in my day job. So thank you for the information. I think the NPS is really interesting. And we know traditionally, for those who don't know, it's actually harder to turn the passives into promoters than it is the detractors, right? So one thing that I noticed when reading through the report, the 29% of Gen Z that were new to camping was also the demographic that was most likely not to enjoy the first experience, right?
You're right.
I think that would kind of put them in the meh, it was good, but it wasn't what I expected. And I think there's a lot of Instagram expectation versus reality. So what work is the KOA doing on the data for those passives, and how can the industry kind of help turn those ones into promoters?
Yeah, you're absolutely right, and that's a really good interpretation of some of the things we saw in our data. So those passives, so those are the people that are giving you, a 6 to 8 in there is considered a passive. So it was okay. I don't know if I'd recommend. And you're right, it is really difficult to move the passives into promoters. And so again, it's getting into our customer service. We've got a really well-defined customer service philosophy. We're constantly trying to improve that. But applying the lens to that customer journey, like I was saying earlier, for different user types is really important. And one size fits all doesn't work. So KOA, I think it's really great that we service so many different types of campers. The boomer demographic, we're big on that, the pet owner. But now seeing these new, younger Gen Z campers coming in, we have to look at everything we do differently. And so we have been integrating a lot of different, for example, tech assists that really appeal to that generation, right? And so you can't just do a one-size-fits-all, I guess is the main takeaway. And we do a lot of, even in just discovering that user group, a lot of use of social media. Our social media return on investment is really, really high. So for those of you who are buying ad space on Google, right, buying digital ad listings, we spend a lot of money there as well. We'll get back about $33 to $35 per dollar we spend on Google. Someone will click through and make reservation. That's our ROI. On social media, particularly TikTok and Instagram, we'll get $70 back for investment in social media. So that's really showing us how we're capturing them. Then when they get on the campground, we need to make sure we're taking care of them. And honestly, what we see with that generation is they want to disconnect. They want technology when it makes something they're doing easy. They want to have access to it, but their stay is not about technology. They're actually more inclined than my generation to disconnect. They're not wanting to work while they camp. They want to be offline for a majority of their time. And so I think it's just understanding all the nuances of the different user groups and how we deliver upon that experience is really key. Yeah?
I appreciate that a lot of your campground is being into the lock site.
Yeah, so the comment was he likes the deluxe sites that KOA's been put in. Right. Yeah, so that's a good insight. It's really important, we think, to have a diversification of sites, just like you have a diversification of RV product. And again, talking to the different generations and maybe different demographics, we want to have you have to have a range. So we have, and you've seen some pictures as we go through here, we've got what we call a KOA patio site. We have definition around how big that patio has to be. It has to have a grill, it has to have 2 seating areas. And then we, trademark that and we market against it. And those are our highest rated sites, the most expensive sites, and the first to fill up. Because there is people that want that higher end site. We've also been adding pet sites. So we're calling them paw pens. These will be fenced off areas next to the RV or the cabin site that allow the dog to be off leash. Those are extremely popular. We just introduced something a year or so ago called a signature site. And these are really amped up patio sites. They have to have space for groups. There's more size requirements. But the interesting thing is there's signature to that park and that experience. We've got some that are putting hot tubs on that site, for example, or they're putting TVs in an outdoor kitchen. So everybody has the flexibility to create what's signature for them. But the idea is that we can market, again, another level of, price point and a premium experience. In addition to, less dialed up sites that are at a cheaper price point. So particularly right now as we're managing rates and talking about affordability, we want to have a range of sites and appealing to people for what works for them economically. We have something to meet those needs. Yeah. Any other questions? KOA questions? No? Oh yeah, one more. Probably because of the TV. Well, if you catch me afterwards, I'll give you my QR on my phone and you can snap it that way and we can do it that way. Thank you for that. Okay, thanks Shane.
Perfect, thank you so much. There's a lot of great stats in there. One that I took notice was 30% of 2.2 million. So if we can all sell 600,000 units at this show, I think we'll be okay. Okay, let's go. Thank you, that was great.